Alright, what is good my people, it's Daniel Effects here, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing another weekly forecasting video. You guys seem to love these types of videos where I forecast the coming week on the indices, on NASDAQ, German 30 as well as US30. I'm essentially giving out free money here. If you've paid attention, it's in the past couple of weeks where I've done these sorts of videos. We've actually called thousands of pips on NASDAQ alone, so you may want to pay attention. Obviously not guaranteed as much as I wish it would. But unfortunately the market doesn't work like that, but who knows, we'll see. I feel like it's going to be a super interesting week next week on US30 because we have been consolidating for an extended period of time. Price really hasn't done much, and I feel that we are going to begin to have a sell-off coming here very shortly. But before we get into that, as per usual, we're going to start with that top-down analysis, which means we always start on the dollar first and foremost. Now, if you've been following along, you know what I was saying last week, that price was kind of consolidating at this region we were holding, and I was kind of anticipating the short move. I thought we were going to come out and fill out some of these gaps here to the downside and maybe start to actually break structural lows and continue the trend. But hey ho, the market proved me wrong. We came up, we held, caused a lot of upside and downside depletion, left liquidity in both directions, and then price towards the end of last week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, again, this was highly assisted by the news, FOMC, CPI, a bunch of news came out last week that did actually come out bullish for the dollar, and price came out and took out structural highs to the upside. So for the time being, I'm going to be assuming dollar strength, even though the overall trend is to the downside, just purely based off the previous couple of weeks. Price has been failing to break structural lows, been pushing to the upside. We've not been wanting to sell off or even have a slight drop. And every time price comes down, it immediately gets brought back up and price is pushing back up. Now, I've personally learned my lesson over the past couple of years that you don't really mess with dollar strength. Even though the economy is a shambles, even though the news, the politics, everything is pointing towards a bearish dollar, if these guys want the dollar to be bullish, the dollar will be bullish. There's no other way to put it. And what's actually happening in the real world in comparison to what's happening in price action are two separate things, and even though they should be incredibly bearish, it's currently bullish. So I'm just going to roll with the punches and just assume dollar strength until proven otherwise. Now, in order for me to switch my bias back to dollar bearish, I'd want to see some of these structural lows down here begin to get taken. Like 103 flat is a nice psychological level to get taken. I want to see liquidity get taken, some of these FVGs get filled, and some new structural lows created way down here. Now, again, I don't think that's likely, just purely based off of experience. I feel like the dollar is going to continue to trend. But I would say after we come up and begin to break this structural high right here, this big wick at 105, call it 600 flat, and then I believe we're super bullish in our dollar, and we're going to begin to come way back up here and begin to target, for example, that 114 flat, like way up here. Now, again, it's still a long ways off, and it's definitely not going to happen over the next week, but it just is a future target or a future point for you to be looking at if price does happen to come up here and break 105 600 flat, this sort of general region, this wick high, and then I'd say we're looking for a pretty bearish, not bearish, a bullish dollar. Now, taking that information to US30, if the dollar is bullish, then the indices should be bearish. Now, if you look at the previous 2-3 weeks on US30, it's been absolutely terrible. Now, I don't know if you've been on the learn and earn, but this has caused me some problems in it. Now, I typically like to trade trend continuation moves. I like to trade in the overall direction of the trend. And obviously, when price is moving sideways, there is no trend. It's a ranging market, it's consolidating. Now, granted, I haven't been trading. I haven't been getting wicked out every day because I'm not trading every day. But it's just been super slow price action. And to be honest, it's boring. It's just boring. There's no live sessions. There's nothing to do when price is doing this sort of movement. And every now and then you think it's breaking out and it catches you lacking. So for the time being, US30 has been completely locked off in my eyes. But I think over the next coming week, if we do get some volume, I believe we're going to have a nice breakout. And typically speaking, after price consolidates like this for an extended period of time, it tends to have a large breakout in either direction. So whether it's to the upside or to the downside, I think whenever we do break out of this range, price should trend for an extended period of time, which means happy days for us on the learn and earn, so we can start catching some proper trades again. But taking the dollar weakness, no, dollar strength rather, into consideration, it looks like we're going to be selling off. Now, if you actually zoom out here, now typically I don't like to go this high of a time frame on the indices purely because I'm scalping, but it makes sense in this sort of scenario. But you see, price has really been failing to break this monthly high right here that we left in December. We've literally been wicking the past 3 weeks of price action. We've been failing to break structural highs. Price has been unable to push higher, unable to close higher. The level even extends way back here to the left at around like the end of March. So it's a pretty strong resistance or demand level, whatever you want to refer to it as. But simply put, price is failing to break structural highs. And if we're not going to go up, there's only one other direction that we can go in, and that's down. Now, I feel like price low-key does want to push to the upside. I feel like we do want to gain strength on US30. But just because of what the dollar is currently doing, because of the dollar strength we're seeing, it's just unable to push to the upside. The prices just are not matching up. It just has to push down. Now you can see down here, we've got a lot of liquidity pending. We've got a lot of levels that haven't been tested in an extended period of time. So I would say we are in a good position to actually come out and take out some of these levels. Now, personally, I'm not just looking to randomly start shorting here on Monday. What I want to see is, if I turn my drawings back on, is I want to see 33,400 flat get broken. Now, obviously, there's no 9 in there, but I want to see this level get broken. I want to see a nice body closure, not a wick, not a small 5-minute candle. I want to see a nice hourly, 4-hourly, whatever you want to call it, a nice body closure below this level to take out this liquidity, to sweep these lows, and then look for a continuation and a further sell-off back down here to like 32,800 flat. That's personally what I'm looking for. Now, again, I don't know if we're necessarily going to get this on Monday or Tuesday. I feel like we could open up and still remain in this consolidation and this ranging market. And if that's the case, then I'm simply not going to be doing anything. There's no need to trade in this mess. But if we do happen to break out to the downside and get nice structural closures below here, then I'll be shorting to target the next lower lows. But as of now, US30 is still currently locked off until I see some interesting price action. So what we're going to do is we're going to slap a fat X right here, meaning ask price action until price breaks. Now, taking that same information here to the NASDAQ. Now, let me turn my drawings off because it's a little bit messy. But the NASDAQ has been slightly better. In terms of price action, we haven't been consolidating the same way we have on US30, but it's still sort of the same principle. Price is still not really trending. I wouldn't really consider this nice, clean price action. And even though we kind of have respected this previous level and we bounced off of it and made a new kind of structural point, to me, it's still overall the previous week or 2 weeks of price action have still been like a consolidating mess. Now, similar to US30, price has really been failing to break structural highs. If you look here to the left, we left this high point here in December. And since then, we've been failing to break the structural high. We've been coming up. We tested it a couple of times. Bear in mind, this is the daily candle. So whenever you see a wick rejection, this is like hours of price action rejecting. And if I even zoom out here to the weekly, it makes a little bit more sense. But price came up to this weekly high or this monthly high. And 3 weeks in a row, we've been failing to break above. We rejected, we've rolled back bearish. And even last week, we really did try to remain bullish. And we had this very slight bullish closure on the weekly. But again, it's just, to me, it's indicating that price, again, doesn't necessarily want to sell off, because I feel like the overall sentiment for the NAS should be buys this year anyway, just purely because we're recovering losses from last year. But current sentiment with the dollar and everything that's happening, I feel like we are going to begin to have a bit of a sell-off. But again, on NAS, I'm a little bit more 50-50. NAS is looking much more bullish than US30 is. But again, coming into next week, what I want to see is I want to see some body closures back below this low. So 200 flat or 200 flat, however you want to call it. I want to see the structural low begin to get broken below. Some nice body closures. Again, I'm really not too interested in the price action here. At the moment, it's just looking a bit messy for me. I would love to just continue buying. I would love to have this level be respected, have a new low created here. Price comes up, takes out structural highs. That would be ideal, because we can just continue trading in the overall direction of the trend and actually come out and take some of these structural highs up here. But at the moment, it really just doesn't seem feasible. It looks like we're weakening. So again, all of this is super dependent on how we open up on Monday. And granted, I don't believe there's too much high impact news next week, but obviously it could change at any given moment. But as of now, it's looking much more bearish than it is bullish. Now, taking all of that information to German 30. German 30 has held the best out of all of the indices, which is pretty typical, because German 30 is just a bit goated. It just doesn't fuck about as much as the other indices. But you can see we've still been super bullish on German 30. But again, the same consolidative period we've had on the other indices, we've also had here on German 30. You can see pretty much the past week and a bit, almost 2 weeks, it's 2 weeks of price action. Price has once again been failing to break structural highs. We've left a shit ton of liquidity up here. A blatant depletion, 3 weeks. and we've also left a bunch of downside depletion as well as liquidity. So price essentially just consolidating. We're really just holding here in one direction. Now again, for me, German 30 is showing much more bullish price action purely because we haven't left this area. We haven't broken structural lows. We are failing to break structural highs, but in my opinion, that's just a cause of low volume. And if we were beginning to sell off, I would see some of these wicks begin to get broken. However, more than likely, if we do begin to get a big sell off on US30 and NASDAQ, um, German 30 will kind of follow suit. So in that case, I'd be looking for maybe 15,300 flat, or maybe a little bit lower than that. Call it, let's say 15,200 flat. I'll be looking for that structural point to get broken, liquidity to get taken, and then in which case we can be looking for shorts. But for the time being, again, not really too interested in German 30 as a whole. In my opinion, the market is just at a weird kind of turning point, and I'm not really here to try and predict when the trend is going to change. I'm not really here to try and predict when the markets are going to shift. That's not what I'm here for. I would much rather sit out of that phase, maybe take a week off, even though it's been super slow already. And I know it's frustrating, especially if you've been on Learn and Earn. I know it's frustrating to go a week, 2 weeks without trading. But certain times you need to know when to take a step back, when to remove yourself from shitty price action, and wait until it's back in full swing and it's back in momentum so you can start catching your regular setups again. And for me, that's personally what I'm going to be doing. So I'm just going to be taking a step back, waiting out the next couple of days, maybe until Wednesday, whatever, until some of these structural points get broken, in which case I can hop back into the market. But for the time being, really not interested in trading messy bullshit price action like we're currently seeing here on the indices. So yeah, that's the weekly forecast. Again, not really too much happening. We just need to see what fucking plays out, innit?